You're listening to the Options Insider Radio Network, the home of the Options Podcast. For more quality options programs, visit theoptionsinsider.com or search for Options Insider Radio Network in your podcast provider of choice. Listeners can also access all of our programming through our mobile app available in the iTunes and Google Play stores. Select programs are also available via live stream at mixlr.com/options-insider. That's mixlr.com/options-insider. Don't forget to follow along with your favorite programs and submit your own questions for the hosts at twitter.com/options, stocktwits.com/options, facebook.com/theoptionsinsider, or via questions at theoptionsinsider.com. And now, it's time for the show that breaks down the options market from unusual activity alerts to market analysis, strategy overviews, listener questions, and much more. If it involves puts and calls, then our all-star panel will break it down. It's time to hit the Option Block with your host, Mark Longo from the Options Insider Media Group and co-hosts Uncle Mike Tosaw from St. Charles Wealth Management, Mark the Greasy Meatball Sebastian from OptionPit.com, Andrew the Rock Lobster Giovinazzi from OptionPit.com, and Henry the Flowmaster Schwartz from Cboe. The Option Block is brought to you by Cboe. Cboe's suite of S&P 500 index options, SPX and mini S&P 500 XSP options, allows traders to speculate on the direction of the market, generate income, and hedge for downside protection of their portfolio of stocks. No matter what kind of trader you are, there's plenty of useful information to take the guesswork out of creating your portfolio strategy and to help you make more educated moves in the market. Visit www.cboe.com/SPX today to learn more. The views expressed herein are those of the speakers and do not necessarily reflect the views of Cboe Global Markets Incorporated or any of its subsidiaries, collectively Cboe. The information provided is for general education and information purposes only. There are important risks associated with transacting in any of the Cboe products or any of the digital assets discussed here. Before engaging in any transactions in those products or digital assets, it is important for market participants to carefully review the disclosures and disclaimers contained at www.cboe.com/US_disclaimers. These products and digital assets are complex and are suitable only for sophisticated market participants. These products involve the risk of loss, which can be substantial and, depending on the type of product, can exceed the amount of money deposited in establishing the position. Market participants should put at risk only funds they can afford to lose without affecting their lifestyle. And now, get ready to hit the Option Block.
All right, everybody, that music means it is time once again for episode 2 of the bi-weekly options extravaganza, known around the globe as the Option Block. My name, of course, Mark Longo from theoptionsinsider.com, as well as from the network upon which all you folks are hopefully having a good time this week. A lot of great content coming at you throughout the week, so hopefully you're enjoying a great pro Q&A yesterday with our buddy, Mr. Vixologist, tackling all of your crazy vol questions. And who doesn't have a vol question these days? There's a lot popping off out there. Awesome interview we did earlier this week as well. That's already up on the pro. That'll be hitting the network next week. So all sorts of fun out there, as well as the usual smattering. Our 301st episode spectacular of Options Bootcamp yesterday and now today for more Option Block action. Of course, if you want to check out all that pro fun, theoptionsinsider.com/pro is the place to go to kick the tires and light the fires. I think you're going to have some fun over. You've been listening to oddities of late. You're doing pretty good. That's all I'm going to say. It's been an intriguing couple of weeks. We'll get to all that fun tomorrow on Options Oddities after Vol Views. But first, we have to go around the horn, see who's joining us on the old program today. First, joining us from the hallowed halls, not of Cboe East, but from the hallowed halls of the Newark Airport. Yes, we are joined once again by the Flowmaster, Mr. Henry Schwartz. Again, from the Newark Airport. Mr. Flowmaster, welcome back, sir. This is the quietest Newark Airport I've ever heard.
Well, hopefully we'll get lucky and there'll be no gate announcements. But yes, I am at gate 115 in Newark on my way to Quebec, Canada, to present at the Canadian STA, a little state of the industry mid-year update. So I'm glad to be with you.
You're quite the Canadian traveler these days. So up back and forth to the Great White North all the time. So there you go, listeners. Pro tip: if you need to record a show from the Newark airport, Gate 115 is the place to go. As we keep on rolling out to the hinterlands of Chicago, where we are joined once again by the uncleist of Mikes, Mr. Uncle Mike Tosaw from St. Charles Wealth Management. Uncle Mike, welcome back to the program. Are you too joining us from Gate 115 of the Newark airport?
No, I'm actually in the home studio in St. Charles today. And ironically, I just literally read an email from my alma mater, Missouri Southern, in the alumni email updates, and they just announced that fall of 2024 is going to be the Canada semester. Who knew?
Who knew indeed? I guess you're heading to the Great White North as well. Let's see if the Rock Lobster, he's kind of already almost there. He's Canada adjacent because he is beaming in from the shores of Maine, Mr. Rock Lobster, from the land of the pit. How go things in the land of Canada adjacency, sir?
I believe Canada adjacent is, I don't know, I don't want to offend any Canadians, but we are Canadian adjacent. I'll just leave it there.
Can you see Canada from your backyard, sir? That's all we want to know.
I cannot see Canada from my backyard, sadly, but it is close. And I've lived here for 16 years and I still haven't gone to Canada.
Wow. So the hell with the loony for you.
17 years.
Dang. All that flannel and no going to Canada. Wow. Seems like a missed opportunity.
And, you know what? I want to go to Montreal. I hear it's the Paris of the West and the West or whatever, North America. And then we were going to go actually, and then the COVID thing and Canada got weird. So I'm like, whatever. I don't care.
He doesn't care indeed, listeners, but we care about the markets. Let's get into it now. A little bit of the old trading block.
It's time to break down the latest topics, trades, and trends in the world of options. It's time for the Trading Block.
All right, everybody, welcome to the Trading Block, the portion of the show where we break down what the heck is trading, what is lighting up our tapes out there, and there's a lot to digest again today. These markets just continue to rock and roll all over the place. This time a week ago when the Flowmaster was joining us, we were well north of the 20 handle in VIX land, and it seemed like everything was just going wild in the markets out here. Fast forward to this week, and it seems like the bulls have the bit in their teeth, and they are running with it, powered today by some strong numbers in retail sales, the biggest gain in over a year, about a year and a half out there. Jobless claims also looking pretty decent out there. All this kind of maybe easing those concerns we saw just a few weeks ago of the R word. Oh no, did the Fed wait too long? Are we heading for a dire recession? Do we need an emergency rate cut? All these things were in the ether this time last week. Now it seems kind of silly, but hey, past can be prologue. We'll see. We'll see if these fears continue, if we get some more hot numbers out there. But for now, the numbers looking good and the market's on the rampage. As we're kicking off the show, S&P up about 1.33%, so back north of the 5,500 level, listeners. So doesn't seem like that long ago we were thinking about, are we going to break 5,000 in the other direction? Nope, breaking 5,500 out there today. Dow up about 1.1%, NASDAQ up full 2% right now. And VIX cash, interesting, it was coming down pretty aggressively heading into the start of the show. But, at the end of the day, listeners, movement is movement. Movement is vol. When the markets continue to rally. Yeah, we got down sub 15 handle, 1485 or so. Looks like the low from this morning in the VIX cash. And ever since then, we've been rallying a bit out there, which is kind of interesting. So just this endless effervescence in the market, powering VIX cash back up about 0.75 of a point right now. So we're at about 15.75 as we're talking. So we're still down over 4 points, about 4.3 points from where we were on the Monday show, but not quite as low as we were earlier this morning. So kind of interesting out there. Actually the low is 14.75. So we're actually about exactly a point off the low right now. So interesting stuff. VVIX also continuing to come in down to 102. I say down about 8 points, but again, took us a long time to get back up to triple digits. So still at a fairly frothy level out there. But let's go around the horn. Let's start the way we started at the top of the show. Let's go out to the hallowed halls of Newark Airport, their Terminal 115. I hear it's a good one, Gate 115. Mr. Flowmaster, sir, what's catching your eye in a rocket ship to the moon kind of market? Oh, no, they got him. They got him at Gate 115. Mr. Flowmaster, are you there, sir?
No, I'm here.
There he is. There he is.
Sorry. I got to say, I remember some idiot thinking that VIX was going to stay above 20 for months to come.
Who would say such a thing on a public airwaves? Who knows?
So clearly that was not the best opinion. It's kind of astounding how quickly the market got past that what is now being referred to as liquidity event that took us down briefly 4% and had the VIX spike up to levels that we hadn't seen really since COVID, very, very briefly. And in fact, by the time the market opened on Monday, VIX was kind of back down into the 30s. It is an incredibly strong rebound. There's clearly, I think, a lot of money on the sidelines, and I think you saw that based in how quickly we came back. But we've kind of normalized. I mean, we're just back to things are okay. The concern about recession and the Fed kind of blowing this soft landing seems to have completely gone by the wayside, and it's a little bit back into the greed mode for the market. So we do see some explosive upside, and dispersions come back to where it was kind of before that hard sell-off, where basically you've got a lot of stocks outperforming, other stocks underperforming. Basically, kind of in the end, if you looked, I was watching the market pretty closely yesterday for a few hours, and it was basically afternoon yesterday. We just kind of trudged higher, literally less than a point every 15 minutes into the close, which is an incredibly light amount of realized volatility. So the way things look right now, even put call skew, which had been incredibly flat, which suggested complacency and possible kind of speculative configuration, which then reverted during that micro crash or whatever you want to call it, is pretty much kind of come back to almost where it was really back in July. So it seems like the market is saying all clear at this point.
It is saying that, at least for right now. You shouldn't be too hard on yourself, Mr. Flowmaster. When you did say last week that the whole rest of the year we're going to be above 20, I was a little bit skeptical. But you know what? I put it out to our audience at the end of the day. They are the ultimate arbiters of all things. And, 55% of them agreed with you. That kind of surprised me. I guess they're just lured in by the Flowmaster. They think all your stuff is backed up by all this hard data. So they gave you 55%, 45%. Obviously going the right way with disagreeing. So there you go, Mr. Flowmaster. You weren't alone in your supposition, even though it only lasted about a day and a half, and then we were back below the 20 handle. Mr. Uncle Mike, same question for you, sir. What's catching your eye out there in a very strong Uncle Mike type of day?
Yeah, this is definitely a day for the bulls, that's for sure. And looking at it, I mean, I think that it amazes me. I've been following markets closely for over 20 years now, and it never ceases to amaze me how things can change so quickly, the way with which they have over the course of the last 10 days or so. And last week, it fascinated me that the S&P can start the week off down 4.5% pre-market and then end the week ahead on the week. And so I think it just goes to show that right now we are in a resilient market. The fact that we've had the upside with which we've had, I think that's a very bullish sign over the course of the last couple of weeks. Now, does that mean that our economy is great and that inflation is going to do this, that, or the other? Who knows? But Monday was just very clear to me in that the market goes down, the bulls come in. And until we just haven't had a shoe dropping, and when the shoe starts to drop, it quickly gets picked up. So that's what I'm seeing. It looks like, we'll see what the Fed does in the next rate decision meeting. But as of right now, in looking at the bonds, for example, we've had a little bit of a mini rally, so to speak, in the bond world. And by mini, I'm just calling it mini just because of the drop-off that we had over the course of the last couple of years. If it wasn't for the drop-off for the last couple of years, I would say bonds have been rallying. But over the course of the last couple months, we have had a pretty decent-sized rally in the bond world. But on the year, we've really, just looking at things, we've really not had a ton of movement. We've had movement, but we're right about where we started at the beginning of the year in January. So on that, just some things to consider in the bond world. Short term, it's not necessarily a bad place to be, but the bad news about being in short-term bonds is if this rally continues to go higher and higher and higher, and we cut rates and we go back to where we were before, then you're going to miss out on that bond rally. The good news is that if for some reason we have to raise rates, I don't see that happening, but you never know. I could be wrong. If we have to raise rates, then you're protected from the downside risk that exists in bonds having their inverse relationship to rates. As far as the VIX is concerned, we're back in the teens. Who knew? We've literally lost 75% of the value of the VIX in the last 10 days. And that just goes to show you how fast something like that can actually move. With the sectors, technology, no question, they're leading the way today, them along with consumer discretionaries. I think it's interesting that we always talk about on the show how the Russell likes to march to the beat of its own drummer. Well, the Russell's up almost 3% on the day today, so that's always something to take a look at. So we have definitely some outperformance there. And the shiny stuff, we're having a big rally in the silver ETF SLV. So a lot of things happening. And I think that with where we go from here, who knows? But as of now, the bulls are definitely in control right now.
The bulls are running the show, which brings us out to the shores of Maine, Canada adjacent, some might say, even though he has never been there. Mr. Rock Lobster, sir, what's catching your eye out there in a very green day, unless you're looking at the vol?
What is catching my eye? Well, as you, I think, properly said, market up 1.4%. That is around, what, a 22? Like a 22 daily volatility. So ain't no way VIX is going any lower than it was. So it dipped around here, and now everything's kind of settling in. So that part is, I would say normal. Like everybody's like, why isn't VIX going down lower? Well, as we look at it now, how is the market, pricing, our 30-day straddle? So at a 15.5 VIX, it should be $150 maybe. Let's see if I can still guess that right. I'm going to say 160. Let's see how close I am. What's today? The 15th. So if I go step 16, $150 right on the nose. So, so you look at that and you're like, okay, well, that's kind of how, it straddles 150, 160-ish. And that puts us at a all-time high again. That would be 5680. So the straddle is now covering an all-time high and then somewhere below 5400, which, once again, now we need some bad news again. So the rate picture, I think, gets more normal because you have like consumer news is kind of back and forth. No, there's no reason for them to cut anytime soon. And I think the market would rather have rates staying where they are than cuts, quite honestly. So at this point now, I think VIX just slowly meanders back towards 13 unless anything basic, that's where we were when all this happened through like 3 weeks ago. So that's probably, where we go again. It might take till next week, but a 13 VIX is still going to give us like a $130 straddle in SPX. And now that we're kind of back to 5,500, is like the market's not in a rush to go anywhere anymore. We're back to where we were and everything's cool. So barring some other news or at this point, I think the market's accepting. Didn't we say this last week? Like bad news is bad again. So good news is good. So that to me means the rate thing, interest rates are kind of moving how they should, meaning a hotter economy we raise and a cooler economy we lower. And hopefully the Fed just puts away their stupid printing press forever. But as we all know, that's not going to happen. But it's nice to dream.
Not going to happen, especially in an election year, sir. Not
in no way.
Not looking too good. What is looking good, though, listeners, is this freaking market, not just from an underlying perspective, but from a volume perspective. Man, again, heading into the dog days of summer, this is supposed to be sleepy time, listeners. This is supposed to be head off to the Hamptons or the south of France, leave your concerns and your position behind, and just go have fun, because nothing's supposed to be happening out there in the market. And yet VIX said, hold my beer on that one. Almost 1 million contracts already on the tape in VIX land, 955,000. The ADV is already an astounding 1.21 million. Seeing it that high for mid-August, it's crazy. This is the time of year, this in December, when VIX is supposed to do nothing. And yet we are seeing exactly the opposite. And it's a very lofty ADV, and we're already threatening it halfway through the show. So we might be there by the end of the show at this rate. Let's lighten it up out there. 78,000 of the AUG 15 puts expiring next week. That's the big dog today. I think they went up for about 35 cents. It passed its prologue paper. Probably buying those, but I haven't had a chance to dig into those. Followed by number 2, 48,000 of the AUG 14 half puts. So nice little put strip there. Number 3, 43,000 of the AUG 18. So getting a little bit of upside action. Number 4, 39,000 of the October 18s. And number 5, 38,000 of the AUG 14 puts. So yeah, but by the way, there's a lot of size OI in all these, so there could be some closing out here as well. But intriguing stuff here. Nearly 1 million contracts already in VIX land. We don't see that too often. SPY also saying look out above. Usually this time of day, 4.3, maybe 4.5 if things are rocking and rolling. 5 if things are crazy. 6.15 million contracts already out there in SPY. The ADV, 8.6 million. Weirdly enough, everything outside of the VIX, ADV actually coming in a little bit since the Monday show. The S, already a banger as well. 2.1 million contracts. The ADV, 3.36 million. So I don't think it's any surprise we're going to hit both of those today. Small caps, IWM, which, by the way, we haven't brought up yet on the show. Small caps right now up nearly 3%, 2.9% right now, listeners. Small caps closing in on 1.5 million contracts already. The ADV is 2.12. It's going to hit that probably pretty easy. And the Qs, 2.85 million. It's over 500,000 contracts above what we expect this time of day. The ADV, 4.2 million. Seems like it's going to hit it out there as well. To the single names we go, listeners. Is it a banger day on the single name front as well? The answer is a pretty resounding yes. Cost you 310,000 contracts to get into our top 10 today. We haven't seen it that lofty in quite a while. Now, it's not 350, 360, threatening 400,000 like we have seen on some really explosive days in the past, but that is certainly respectable, especially for the dog days of August. We don't see those kind of numbers this time of year, so in context, it is even more impressive. That gets us to our old pal Meta. Remember when it was sub 100, listeners? That is a distant memory. That is in the rearview mirror by a country mile. 537 and 2/3, up nearly $11, or a little over 2% today just for Meta. So up quite a bit since it broke 100 in the wrong direction. We were talking about that person who got run over on the 200 calls out in Meta. And then they kept rolling. They ended up doing all right. Number 9, we go back to my old stomping grounds. Now a frequent offender in our top 10 of late. Everything old becoming new again. It's Intel, 317,000 contracts. Intel, 20 3/4, up about 80 cents today, or a little over 4% for them. So not a bad day for Intel. Number 9, 317,000. Number 8, this is now a frequent offender. It's Palantir, 318,000. So not much separating our bottom half of our top 10, just a few thousand each. Palantir, 31.12, up about 240, almost $2.50, or 8.5%. That's just this month. Today, it's up 13 cents. So yeah, we were looking back on the whole month there for a second. Interesting. But Palantir's had a good month and a good day. 318,000 contracts, and the number 8 overall spot. Number 7, back to China we go. It is Alibaba, 79.60, up about a dime today. Good for 323,000. So yeah, not a lot of daylight between all of our bottom half of our top 10 here, which is kind of interesting. Number 6, Walmart just popped off. They are in the post-earnings blush. They are number 6 today, 414,000 contracts, so some hot paper for them. They're trading 73.15, up 4.5, almost 460, kind of feeding into that strong retail sales number here. The headline, Americans are still shopping. They're just going to Walmart. So Walmart putting out some good numbers out here today. Then we go to number 5. It is time for the A Tech Strip, listeners. I hope you're ready. Number 5, it's AMD, 494,000 contracts. 146.5 is where it's trading, up 5 3/4, or a little over 4% for AMD. Let's see on the past month. Has it regained everything? No, it hasn't regained everything. A month ago, it was about 180. Then they took it down to 128. And now it's back up to 146. So it's gotten about $18 back from that low, but still a ways below 180 out there. But AMD, number 5, 494,000. Keeping it in the A Tech names, number 4, it's Amazon, 175, almost 176, 2 cents below. Up nearly $6 today, about 590 or 3.5% today. Let's look at Amazon over the past month. They were 193 about a month ago. And they took it down to 161 back last on Black Monday a few weeks ago. And now back up to 176. So it's regained 15 points from the low, but also still about 17 points above the high. Number 4, Amazon, 641. Keeping it in the A-Tech names, it's the fruit company, 224.5, up 280, or about 1.25% today. On the last month, they've proven to be remarkably resilient. They got up to about 235 back in July, about a month ago. They took them down to 207, so they didn't even break 200 in the mad sell-off. And then since then, they've rallied about 17 handles back to 224.60 right now. Good for number 3, 663,000. 2 and 1, you can guess if you've been listening to this show at all. Number 2, it's Tesla, 1.7 million. So back at some respectable volume numbers out here. Also back north of the 200 handle, 213.92, up about $12.5, or a little over 6.25%. The last month has been tumultuous. They got up to about 256 a month ago. Then they took them down to 191. They kept beating this one up all the way. Every other name rallied on Monday and into Tuesday. This name, they beat it up all the way till Wednesday. Took it down to 191. Then they started rallying. So from there, it's up about 22 handles, but still below the low of 256. Number 2, 1.7 million, it's Tesla. And number 1, the big dog, you know what it is. It's NVIDIA. Perhaps not as big as you'd expect on a day like today. 3.8 million contracts. Again, that's banger volume. You can add up most of the rest of our top 10 combined, and it wouldn't add up to that. But NVIDIA, 122, by the way, up nearly about exactly, actually, $4 today. On the last month, they've had an interesting month as well. They were about 130 a month ago. Then they took them to the woodshed, down to about 98, almost a little bit shy of 99. And again, this is another one that got beat up all the way till Wednesday. And then since then, they've rallied pretty much $23, back up to about 122. So still below their levels of a month ago, but not that much. NVIDIA, number 1, 3.8 million contracts on the tape. A banger week on the earnings front, still Home Depot on Tuesday. Cisco and Stone Cold yesterday, and today we have Alibaba, Walmart, and AMAT popping off. If you're looking for some move results really quickly, we have Cisco after the bell yesterday. They were trading right around $45.5. They were pricing in 6.8%. They delivered 8.5%, so a little bit of outperformance there. Walmart, they were today before the bell, 68 2/3 is where they were trading. They were pricing in 5.5%. They delivered 6.8% as well, so some outperformance there. And let's just not forget our old pal Stone Cold. Yesterday after the bell, 13 1/3 is where it closed. They were pricing in 7.5%, and they too outperformed. They delivered 8.8%. Let's do BABA before the bell today as well. They were at $79.5. They were pricing in 5.6%. They underperformed. They delivered only 2.2%. Let's see if that has changed since then. No, they're almost literally unched now. Wow. So they have delivered. They're a penny away right now from where they were, where they closed yesterday. Wow. So this is one of the better premium sales we've seen in a while out here. I got AMAT popping off later today after the bell. 201 2/3 is where they were trading. They're pricing in 10 3/4. Wow. In the past, they've moved 588. So almost $5, almost double their previous straddle. That's a heck of a lot of juice. So is it merited? It's an A Tech name, so it's hard to argue that it isn't, but that's a heck of a lot of juice. Speaking of a lot of juice, our season right now hanging out actually back below our long-term average, which is interesting. It was north of 130, 135 for a while. Right now, it's back down to 110. The last 2 weeks, kind of underperforming. That brings us below our long-term average, which is still a scalding 113%. So will this remain the case for the rest of the season? I guess we'll find out. We'll also find out what the Flowmaster has dug up from his snug perch there at Terminal 115, because it is time for the Odd Block.
It's time to break down the most interesting, unusual, and downright questionable options activity that's been identified by theoptionsinsider.com. It's time for the Odd Block.
All right, listeners, it is time to unleash the beast known as the Flowmaster, see what he has fixed his gaze upon in the hallowed halls of the Newark airport. Seems like first off, out of the gate, we've got Nike, 82.20 right now, up 370 or 4.75%. So popping hard for Nike on the year. It's been a while since we've talked Nike. A year ago, they're trading 106.5. Then they got up to their high for the year right around 123, and then back down to where they are now. They sold off to, excuse me, still a little bit of a frog in my throat, listeners, from last week. About 70 3/4 just last week, and now rallying back up to $82. Mr. Flowmaster, sir, what did you spot in the hallowed halls of the Newark airport?
Yeah, so this one showed up on the trade of the day, and I dug into it. I missed it yesterday, but the August 80 calls yesterday, when the stock was around $78, saw some pretty decent buying. Total open interest in those grew by about 12,000. I believe they were buying them in like some early ones, a couple thousand in the 19-cent range, and then up to 40 cents towards the end of the day. But what's interesting, right, is kind of where the stock is today. So now they're trading $2. I think one of the headlines I saw go by happened to do with because following Starbucks grabbing the CEO from Chipotle, I think there was some headline about Nike kind of paying attention, and I guess some speculation that you could see some sort of a similar move of kind of trying to take a super growth type of CEO, which the Chipotle CEO was able to do, and bring him in. So as I said, a total of 12,000 of the 80s call opened. That's about $1 million winner, though, based on where things are. We also saw buyers in the 85 calls, the 82 calls. These all expire tomorrow, so this was a short-term trade.
Interesting. Nike. Someone having a nice little run there, pun intended, out there, Nike. Mr. Rock Lobster, sir. We haven't talked Nike in a while. Has this come across your radar, and what do you think of these calls? Looking pretty good.
I mean, they do look good. I could see why people would jump in, and but let's see, so this is August, or well, pretty aggressive, but I mean, wow, pretty killer trade. You know what reminded me of this Chipotle Starbucks though? Do you guys remember when that Apple guy took over JCPenney?
Yeah, it didn't work out that well.
Was in the ash can, and the Apple guy took it over, the Apple marketing guy or whatever. And then he just buried the whole company. Yeah,
just crushed it.
like, what are you gonna do with Starbucks? Make pizza? I don't know.
He'll start serving burritos.
I think I would unwind the whole thing. I would just buy the Chipotle and short the Starbucks. But I feel like deja vu is happening all over again on that one.
People are like, he's gonna make cool, hip JCPenney little retail stores. Just kind of copying the Apple Store model, and sure enough.
I know. Don't you remember that?
Yeah, everyone's like, JCPenney already has stores, and they're failing.
Yes. And everybody just goes there when they get like the cheapy coupons, like, hey, I get to dress my kids for $50. Like, I don't know, and then you're gonna make it hip. Anyway, but
JCPenney quality memories.
What do I know about retail?
Quality memories out there. They're still around, apparently. I saw one when we were driving out through Ohio. I haven't seen the JCPenney in the wild in forever, but I did spot one. So they do still exist, listeners. As we keep on rolling out to Peabody Energy Corp, ticker symbol BTU, trading 2208, up about 35 cents or 1.6% today, for a good day for them. On the year, let's see. A year ago, they were trading 21.88, so they're almost literally unched. In fact, today's market action puts them up on the year about almost 1%. Otherwise, they would have been unched to down on the year, which is interesting. So kind of a wasted year for them. They did get up to about 27.25. It's like they threatened it a couple of times around the March timeframe this year. And ever since then, it's been mostly shooting down with a brief spike up to about 25.5 again in June. So it's been a bumpy year, but a lot of peaks and troughs, all of it settling out really to nothing. Mr. Flowmaster, sir, what'd you spot out here in BTU?
Yeah, so this is a pretty wild one. These BTU calls, the October 27 calls, were the most active single stock option away from a bunch of NVIDIA strikes. And NVIDIA, we kind of expect it. But over 100,000 of the October 27 calls traded yesterday. Keep in mind this was barely a $20 stock. So net opening was 70,000 of these. The total call volume was over 120,000 versus like 15,000 puts. So that's 8-1 on a call to put, and that call volume is about 20 times normal. This is another big winner. Just because if they're still 20% out of the money, but they're trading. Where did they buy them? They bought them around 14 cents yesterday. They got up to 30 cents today, and on 70,000 calls, that is a really big position. These are October, so you got some time. And you're right, the stock is flat, but it was a lot higher in March. So I'm not sure. Maybe this is a little bit of a election play. The whole energy sector kind of is a little up in the air depending on how things play out into November. But for it to be the in the top 10 for option series total volume yesterday is a real standout to me.
Yeah. Two funky names you don't see a lot, Nike and now BTU. Mr. Rock Lobster. Folks making some money out here in BTU, sir, on the call side. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, we have like in Option Pit, we have a guy that helps us with one of our, he's partner now, does like political analysis and stuff in stocks. And there was some, they were I guess, coal's been weak because the administration's been firing away at coal companies, going to do away with coal and blah, blah, blah. And that put the stock down, those stocks a bit. And I think this customer looked for a bounce. So we had a little short going on. I'm probably going to close it today because the sell-off feels like it's done anyway. But yeah, maybe if there isn't regime change, maybe coal will stick around. Who knows? But it looks like, definitely it could be a little bit of a bet on the election. Some of these industries, I think, could be pretty sensitive around there.
All right. Speaking of sticking around, the Flowmaster can't stick around much longer. They're playing his tune out there in the announcements. But before he goes, he wants to dive into one more. We talked about this one before. It might have been a Flowmaster special, I do believe. This is Geo Group, ticker symbol GEO. And we talked about them before, kind of not exactly being in the most politically correct sector, the private prison sector. Very controversial. But nonetheless, looks like a profitable one. Today, not so much, down about a dime or trading a little bit shy of $13. But on the year, this one's been on the move. It was $7 a year ago, so up nearly $6 on the year, about 78%. I should point out, though, they did top out about exactly a month ago at about 18.05. So for whatever reason, over the last month, they have shed about $5 from their high, but they're still up. Again, you could shed $5 from your high and still be up 78%. You're having a decent year. Mr. Flowmaster, sir, I know this is a favorite of yours, a darling, a Flowmaster #1 pick, if you will. What caught your eye out there today, sir?
Well, yeah, I didn't mean to get so political, but that's kind of looks like exactly what this is. So there's a really big sweep. I mean, for this name of the August 30th, so 2 weeks, 13.5 calls. Total size, the size of the sweep was 2,400. I think they may have accumulated about 3,000 on the day, but it kind of stands out. Stock was at 1276. They paid 30 cents, and it was in trade alert. I can see it was a 60-leg sweep that took 0.06 seconds. So a very fast, kind of very aggressive trade. It is opening. I looked at the chart. I'm not a big kind of chart trader, but this does seem like it's kind of at the low end of the range. And I would kind of guess that the few points that it's sold off in the last month, it probably is the Biden withdrawing kind of dynamics, because I would assume that this is a stock that would do a heck of a lot better if Trump were to win. So big trade. I think they're up money on it. They're up money on it now. They're trading 35 cents. But kind of that one's probably worth watching. I don't think that I'll do a trade in it, but looking at the chart, it looks to me like somebody's kind of trying to just kind of play the range and think it's got a few dollars of upside, and if it doesn't go up, probably kind of hangs out right here.
This one's had quite a bit of upside. You're right. These are kind of intriguing. I'm going to keep an eye on these. And you're right, probably a political dimension to all the price action out here. Mr. Rock Lobster, we've talked about the private prison sector in the past. It's been a banger so far this year. Last month, not so much. Anything catching your eye out here on these? What were they? 13.5 calls, sir. He's so excited he has muted himself. Mr. Rock Lobster, sir, are you there?
Oh, geez. You know what? I've never done the show before.
Never once.
Never once. But when Henry brings the good goodies, I think it behooves you to pay attention. So I could see how this stock might do better in the current administration. Who knows? Because federal prisons, state prisons, whatever. But I like the thing about it is the pricing is kind of interesting, relatively inexpensive options. And the stock does look like it can move. There's a little bit of volatility in it, even though you would think there wouldn't be. So anytime there's a story in a stock like this, I think you got to, buying options tends to make you a little more money than just like selling the puts or something like that. So I think it's worth keeping an eye on. I put it on my list though, because when Henry speaks, it goes on the list.
Yeah, as I recall, the last time he talked about this one, it had a nice run thereafter. So definitely an intriguing one to keep an eye on if you're down for making a near-dated flyer in private prisons. You could do worse than this one. Mr. Flowmaster, I know you got to hop off soon, sir. So before we go, anything else you want to leave our listeners with? What are you keeping an eye on until your next appearance? And also, where can they go to get more nuggets like the Gio 13.5 calls?
Well, if you'll have me, I can now stay until the end of the show because my flight was just delayed 3 hours.
Oh, geez. Yeah, you got some time there.
Sorry, dude.
All right.
I'll have some extended time.
Well, then we'll do an extra show with you after this. How's that? Just to keep you occupied. All right. Well, we got a few more minutes. I was going to pay off this last one here, doing a final payoff of this one, listeners. This is the one we talked about on the show last week. We said we had to pay it off on the show this week. We did on Monday. This is CENX, listeners, CENX. This is Century Aluminium for all the Brits out there. And somebody came in last week and loaded up to the upside on the AUG 15s. They paid about 24 cents for them. The stock was $12.41. It was right before earnings, so it was a clear earnings swing for the fences. Obviously, it goes the way of the dodo tomorrow. We talked about it on Monday. Was not looking good. The stock had made a nice move post-earnings from about $12.40 up to about $13.65, but obviously not enough. Didn't hit the 15 handle. These calls were still open on Monday. They were not looking great, so we kind of assumed that paper was going to be out about $83,000 or so. Thought we'd do a last check-in today, and guess where the stock is, listeners? Almost literally unched. It was like $13.65 again, right as we kicked off the show. It has drifted higher now to about $13.71, but again, nowhere near the 15 strike. So these appear to be done and dusted unless we get a very aggressive move in Century Aluminium tomorrow. All that upside swinging for the fences appears to be dead, but the show's not dead, listeners. Let's get out to a little bit of the old mail block.
It's time to take your seat on the All-Star panel as we read your emails, tweets, Facebook messages, website comments, and much more. It's time for the Mail Block.
All right, everybody, welcome to the Mail Block. I already half-jokingly paid off Henry's question of the week last week when he said we're going to be above 20 the rest of the year in VIX. Clearly not the case, but over half of you, 55% of you agreed with him, so You're just under the spell of the Flowmaster. What can I say? This week, an interesting one. We had the launch earlier this week. I believe it was Monday. Actually, it was Monday. We had MIAX adding to the total number of options exchanges now with their Sapphire exchange, bringing that total number of venues here in the U.S. to 21. A mind-watering 21. So that obviously raises the question, what do you think about that? Is that too many? Is that not enough? Is it just right? Is it the Goldilocks number? Or are you too busy trading your private prisons and you don't care? Mr. Uncle Mike, we will start with you, sir. Did this notice come across your radar? Did you not even see it? And then B, what do you think our audience is choosing? And if you have a vote, have at it, sir.
It didn't really come across. I guess I'm too busy trading private prisons for it to matter.
I knew you were big on Gio. I could tell. You were the one.
But I think the audience thinks it's too much. 21's quite a bit. I mean, I guess I'm going to date myself and show my age here. I remember when I first got into the business, when I was just learning how things worked in the option world, there were 6 exchanges. And I remember thinking even back then, wow, why do we need 6 exchanges for all this stuff? So I don't see the need for 21, but I could be wrong. There's quite a few of them. So I think the audience agrees with me on that. So 21, that's too many for me. That's my thought on it.
Mr. Rock Lobster, same question for you. Are you down with 21? Is that just the right number? Is that not enough? Do you need more? Or are you feeling it's overwhelming? And B, which way do you think our audience is going?
Well, I mean, realistically, the only exchanges we need are the sponsors to the Options Insider Radio Network. Those are the exchanges.
There we go. Those are the only ones that matter, sir.
Those are the only ones that matter. So clearly, since we don't have 21 yet, I say we are oversubscribed with exchanges.
You think our audience is going that way as well?
That is my opinion on that currently. I don't see how any of those. Where is the value? I mean, before the SEC approves one, why don't they say what value are you adding to the options market? That would be my gig.
All right, Mr. Flowmaster, as our duly appointed exchange rep, you can feel free to comment on this one or leave it alone if you like. But what you can probably weigh in on is, what do you think our audience is voting for? Do you think they're down with 21? Do they want more? Do you think that's too many? Or are they too busy slinging Gio as well, sir?
Yeah, I think they're too busy slinging, and they don't even see the fact that we have 21 exchanges. It makes no difference to them and the MBBO. So I would say the audience is ambivalent, maybe even in favor of more exchange competition. Although, since you have the same amount of liquidity providers, I don't know how much real competition, more additional competition you get. But, I'm just an old school market maker. What do I know?
Mr. Flowmaster, same question for you. You could dispense with your own vote if you want, but which way do you think our audience is going? Are they down with more exchanges? Are there too many? Are they just too busy printing money now to care?
I just updated some slides for this presentation tomorrow. And, I actually think now we'll probably see 21 by the end of next year. Every exchange does seem to pick up market share. And as much as I think it adds a lot of complexity at the kind of participant level, Andrew was exactly right. Most customers don't know and don't care because vendors and brokers have made very effective smart routing, tools. So I don't think it's too many until we see one that is really just kind of has nothing new to offer. And all these exchanges that come along, they tweak something and they do manage to kind of pick up some interest. So, it's all part of competition. I'm okay with it.
Let's see what our audience has to say. Are they down with it, or is it just too much? Are they too busy slinging a little Gio? And the answer is, I think they are too busy slinging a little Gio. 52.2% says they don't care. Long as the NBBO is good, how many there are is almost immaterial to them. And I could certainly see for a lot of people that being the case. 34.8%, the hardcore of our audience, saying that's just too many. They're with Uncle Mike. North of 6 they thought was too many, and 21 is by far too many. 8.7% saying that's just right. 4.3% saying that is not enough, which is surprising to me out there. And interesting, you mentioned 21. That number seemed kind of odd to me as well, Mr. Flowmaster. But we pulled that directly from the OCC press release welcoming MIAX Sapphire to the list. I thought that number seemed high, but they said we now provide clearing and settlement services to 21 exchanges. They add trading platforms to that list. So is that how they're getting that number 21, sir?
That's a good question. I assume that probably Cboe Futures Exchange is one of those because they do clear our VIX futures, and soon our VIX futures options too. So I'm not sure what the other ones are, but I think they also have a small kind of securities lending operation too. So.
Yeah, 21 listeners. So that's the magic number right now. Too many, not enough. Right now, a bunch of you are too busy printing money to care as we keep on rolling and go around the block.
It's time to tell you what we'll be watching on our trading screens until the next episode. It's time for Around the Block.
All right, listeners, around the block we go. Let's start with the uncle list of Mike, sir. What are you keeping an eye on until the Monday show?
Continuing to watch bonds. They're going to tell the story for us, I believe, with what the Fed's going to do. We've had a big rally in them, like I had talked about recently, but not on the overall year, like I had said. So continuing to watch that to see what story they tell, and then seeing if some dip buyers come in to the shiny stuff of silver, and of course watching the SPX, seeing if we can make a run at 5,700 maybe by the end of the year, or sooner, or next week. You never know.
5,700, just skipping right past 50. Like, I'm done with 5,600. 5,700 is what Uncle Mike wants. He's got the bit in his teeth. Who can blame him? By the way, right now, listeners, S&P up about 1.5%, Dow up 1.25%, NASDAQ up fully 2.33% right now, and VIX cash settling in at the end of the show right around 15.5. Mr. Rock Lobster, same question to you, sir. What are you keeping an eye on until the Monday episode?
I think at this point, some interesting things. I think some interesting stocks, like stocks that I thought were dead. Like, okay, Intel was 50, now 20. Walgreens was like 30, now 10. Intel cut their dividend to 0. I didn't add anything to these. I actually kind of hold some positions still in some stock in these dogs. And I'm wondering if some dead names possibly can resurrect. Cisco looks like it could resurrect here. So I think, if the market's not going to die, and, the Q and SPX has kind of gotten a little bit closer to each other now for the year, maybe there's some room for some other stocks. So I'm looking for that. And, again, my guess probably by Friday, VIX is 14, as long as we don't have another back-to-back 1.5% rally. But now that we're back at 5,500, everything is fine. It's like that Lego song. Everything is awesome again.
Everything is awesome indeed. Mr. Flowmaster, the last word is yours, sir. What are you keeping an eye on until next Thursday? And then where should folks go if they want more Cboe goodies?
Well, sure. So you can always go to cboe.com/RMA and find all of the platforms and data services that we offer: Live Vol, Trade Alert, Silex, and FT options. I'm going to be watching with you. A couple of these earnings might be interesting. And I think it's going to be kind of a stock pickers market for a little while. I'm still slightly fearful that we could get another little disruption type of event. I'm just nervous that this retracement from 25 back down to 15 was incredibly fast. But we're always talking about it. It does seem like these vol reversions happen faster and faster, possibly because you got more traders that are less afraid to kind of jump in anticipation of that, and it just kind of accelerates the whole process. So. And then that's it till next week. Thanks.
From the hallowed halls of Cboe East to the Great White North, and now Terminal 115 at Newark. That is going to do it for us on the option block today, but not going to do it for us on the network, listeners. I'll be back in a little bit to break down all the action going on in the world of futures options. I'll have some fun special guests joining me. Who's going to join me in the CME hot seat? You got to tune in to find out in a little bit on Twifo, or of course, if you're listening on demand, just hit next on your podcast device of choice. Twifo should be waiting there with a big smile on its face. And let's keep going around the horn. Let's go out to the land of the Uncleist of Mike. Mr. Uncle Mike, sir, if folks want to have a smile on their face as they talk to you in person, where should they go? What should they do?
stcharleswealth.com if you're looking for a financial advisor who's not afraid of the option product. Also, you can follow me on Twitter at Mike Tosaw, Tosaw, continuing to have a pretty lengthy stream of webinars coming. Follow me and check it out.
There you go. He is overtasked on the webinar front. Take advantage of him. Give him a follow at Mike Tosaw on Twitter to learn more. And Mr. Rock Lobster, sir, if folks want to become Canada adjacent themselves, where should they go? What should they do?
Hey, come to optionpit.com. For 1 week, you can sign up. We are doing an SFIX, how to trade SFIX special in our trading desk. First time ever. So teaching people how to trade volatility on the curve, how to use option decay to your advantage instead of just selling credit spreads. There's other ways. A lot less risk. So go to optionpit.com and glide on over to Trading Desk. We got a great offer on that. So, and if you heard it on this show, you get 10% off. Let them know that Andrew sent you. So if they say you don't get 10% off, say Andrew said I did. There you go.
There you go. Andrew said it. It must be true. That is going to do it for us again on the OB. Back again in a little bit for Twifo listeners, and back again tomorrow, noon Central, 1 p.m. Eastern, to break down all the action from the week on Volatility Views. And man, we got some vol action, so it should be a banger. Who's going to join us on Vol Views tomorrow? You got to tune in to find out. And then after that, we're back one final time. Talk about bangers. The last few weeks on Options Oddities have been true bangers. If you just dipped your toes in some of the trades we've been doing out there, you're having a pretty good couple of weeks. We'll break it all down for you. Options Oddities tomorrow after Vol Views. Of course, you know where to go to get it. TheOptionsInsider.com/pro. Then we're off for the weekend. Everyone gets to relax. Unless you crypto and futures folks, you got to stay glued to your screens. And we're back again on Monday, another episode of the Option Block. Stay safe out there, everybody.
The Option Block is brought to you by Cboe. Cboe's suite of S&P 500 index options, SPX and mini S&P 500 XSP options, allows traders to speculate on the direction of the market, generate income, and hedge for downside protection of their portfolio of stocks. No matter what kind of trader you are, there's plenty of useful information to take the guesswork out of creating your portfolio strategy and to help you make more educated moves in the market. Visit www.cboe.com/SPX today to learn more. The views expressed herein are those of the speakers and do not necessarily reflect the views of Cboe Global Markets Incorporated or any of its subsidiaries, collectively Cboe. The information provided is for general education and information purposes only. There are important risks associated with transacting in any of the Cboe products or any of the digital assets discussed here. Before engaging in any transactions in those products or digital assets, it is important for market participants to carefully review the disclosures and disclaimers contained at www.cboe.com/US_disclaimers. These products and digital assets are complex and are suitable only for sophisticated market participants. These products involve the risk of loss, which can be substantial and, depending on the type of product, can exceed the amount of money deposited in establishing the position. Market participants should put at risk only funds they can afford to lose without affecting their lifestyle. You're listening to the Options Insider Radio Network, the home of the Options Podcast. For more quality options programs, visit theoptionsinsider.com or search for Options Insider Radio Network in your podcast provider of choice. Listeners can also access all of our programming through our mobile app available in the iTunes and Google Play stores. Select programs are also available via live stream at mixlr.com/options-insider. That's MIXLR.com/options-insider. Don't forget to follow along with your favorite programs and submit your own questions for the hosts at twitter.com/options, stocktwits.com/options, facebook.com/The Options Insider, or via questions at theoptionsinsider.com.